My name's Brendan Mullaney, and I'm the Mid-Atlantic Regional Director for an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue.
My name is Rebecca Morrison, and I am a counselor in training and a military widow.
When I went into West Point, it was before 9/11. The Twin Towers came down, and I was sitting in my chemistry class, 40 miles down the Hudson River. Our world and our lives, were changed. I was commissioned as an armor officer and assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division down in Fort Hood, Texas. I spent 15 months of my first deployment in central Baghdad as part of the surge. I spent my second deployment in northern Iraq. The first 6 months I was in Mosul. I was thrust into a command position unexpectedly. About a week or so after that happened, my first sergeant was blown up, who was my right-hand man at the time. In that experience, I really just learned that, war is one of those things that, you can train and you can prepare for, but in a lot of ways, you ultimately don't get to vote.
I met my late husband, Ian, when I was in undergrad in East Texas, and he was at West Point. We were like the pioneers of online dating. The dating pool in East Texas was pretty shallow. Ian as a person was like the quiet, everything that I'm not. Like quiet, really, really smart, hysterically funny and sarcastic. We got married in 2008. He was unexpectedly called to deploy. He escorted the last troops out of Iraq, but with his helicopter. When they're gone, and you don't know where they are, and you sometimes can't know where they are, but it could be bad at any moment, right? It amplifies all that you have no idea what's going on with your favorite person in the world.
The person who went away comes back changed in some way. And the idea that you just pick up where you left off is just not true. The deploying soldiers changed. The ones who were at home have changed. So that reintegration needs to be done with patience, care, and in some cases, guidance, support, and help.
I feel like no matter how much you prepare, when you come back together, there's at least for us, there was this moment of just elation. And then the reality of the separation sits in. And there's not a handbook for that. And so over the next, 2 or 3 months, he wasn't exactly the same as he was before. Towards the middle of March, he just stopped sleeping. He just wasn't able to sleep. I don't think anyone saw how acute his issues really were, including me. I went to grad school one night and came home and he was dead. I guess I've had the unique experience of having been an active duty spouse and the horrific experience of losing him, and now this totally random, weird gift that I've been given of being with Brendan now, and so being with a veteran. I can say from both sides of the situation that the struggles don't end when someone gets out of the military. They just look different. And they don't end for the family either. You're still trying to figure out the world through this new lens. You come back from war and you have a different idea of how you see things. You witness a suicide and you see the world a little differently. And so it's this unique experience of trying to figure out how we're both doing this and how we're experiencing it and how we can do it together.
In a war, in military training, the morality rules all shift. You're supposed to hurt people that are a threat to you. You're not supposed to be sorry about it.
Moral injuries have to do with feelings of guilt, shame, anger toward others, that's moral, like resentment or indignation. And they're incurred from all sorts of things, but in war there's no shortage of occasions for these wounds to fester.
Moral injury, people that suffer from it feel like they've crossed lines that they can't recross.
I know from him and from all my widow friends that it's really hard for people to go to war and come back and just suddenly be in a world that doesn't understand what happened to him. He flew that helicopter every night under the impression that he was going to get shot down. He was in that constant state of wariness and stress, and that does something to a person.
Moral injury tries to address what happens to the warrior's soul, that there is an injury that happens when we're placed in a position that most people would not go to.
You beat yourself up and you feel the shame of falling short of your lofty military ideals.
If I have moral injury, this is the part I have is not doing enough for people that were suffering or needed us. War presents us 1,000 opportunities a day to do more, and there's only so much we can do.
A lot of the discussion around moral injury is how do we help people recover from that.
I sort of made healing my business after he died. I couldn't do a lot else. I was pretty incapacitated. I guess at some point I decided I was either going to kill myself or I was going to get better. Somehow, in some way, you have to gather on that there's some hope. And so that can come in a whole bunch of different ways, but if you know someone who's grieving a suicide death or otherwise, they just need to find hope. And so how can you be that little flashlight that shines into their life and says, like, this is not the end for you?
I do think that God brought Becca into my life. You know, Becca's experience and getting to know about Ian and everything that happened there has, you know, certainly made me a little bit sensitive to some of the issues. A somewhat kind of scary thing is that what happened to Ian could have happened to me. It could have happened to a lot of us.
I think we have a sacred obligation to our citizen soldiers. This is not a militia. This is us. And so it's morally urgent, just as we send citizen soldiers to war, that we bring citizen soldiers home. And homecomings are really about coming home, figuring out ways to help troops integrate and transition.
Yeah, every religion has cleansing rituals, ways to deal with the stuff that just isn't right. And some of that stuff is things that were done to us, and some of that stuff that we've done. And we say it in our confession, things done and left undone. And that's moral injury that we bring to every church service. What veterans need to know is that they can bring those things right up to the altar and offer those things to God.
The experience of war is profound. Those experiences are unique to those soldiers, and the younger they are, the more profound they are. And those communities which sent these young men and women, and middle-aged men and women as well, to war, need to receive them back again and listen to them,
But at the end of the day, we're just people. And what I need is maybe different than what the next veteran or the veteran after that needs. If there's one thing that I think we all need, we need someone who's willing to hear our story. The other part about telling your story is that it really does validate your service. So you can say thank you for your service, but if you're willing to spend the time to just listen to a little bit about what that all entailed, then that service is validated.
I use the H word a lot when I talk about helping veterans, but veterans tell me all the time that they don't like that feeling of being helped. And really none of us really like to be helped. And one thing we do is we walk with veterans. We use that kind of language a lot to walk with veterans on their journey home from war.
Beyond saying thank you, I wouldn't make any assumptions that this person is going through particular things unless they're willing to share that. And that often that's just simply want to be an ordinary person.
So oftentimes people might say thank you for my service, you know, but they have no idea what my service looked like. You know, to know what my service was or what I went through, And then just to hear that, I think that's the greatest way to show your appreciation.
Veterans can be with people in their pain because they've suffered pain and alienation. Veterans have a lot to offer. They've been through a death and resurrection experience. They've gone into the underworld, to the world of the dead, and they've emerged back from that. And to some degree or another, they're on that journey home. Veterans aren't afraid to die. We've faced that a long time ago. We can go into those places that just aren't right in our communities with boldness and courage and offer God's reconciling love.
The ability to share your story, that's how we connect as humans. You know, my story is unique to me, but there are certain strains of it that if I have an opportunity to share it, will resonate with others. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned when I started sharing, you know, my story or telling a little bit about my experience, is that I wasn't alone. That there are a lot of veterans who had similar experiences that were maybe disappointed with what they saw, or maybe still struggling to find, you know, what's next. And I think that's why it's important for those of us who have served and are veterans to share that message. And the best way we can do that is by continuing to serve and give back, because that's what we did while we had the uniform on, and I think, you know, that's what our country still needs us to do.